privacy reasons, the names of individuals involved in this case have been changed. Stay tuned. The Miller family home was engulfed in flames in the dead of night. As the smoke cleared and ash covered the ground, a horrifying truth emerged. 5 children had disappeared without a trace. No bodies, no notes, no clear clues. A mysterious fire, eerie phone calls, mysterious witnesses, and a haunting photo that emerged years later. Was this a tragic accident or a kidnapping plot hidden in the ashes? This decades-old mystery remains unsolved, and the truth may be even more terrifying than we imagined. Where every unsolved mystery contains secrets that want to be revealed. Step into the darkness and explore them with us. Don't hesitate to leave a like as an encouragement for us, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell to update the most classic cases. The disappearance of the 5 Miller children is one of the greatest mysteries in American history, and one that has yet to be solved. On Christmas Eve, 1945, in the small town of Fayetteville, West Virginia, a terrible tragedy occurred. The Miller family home, where Thomas and Eleanor Miller lived with their 10 children, suddenly caught fire in the night. The fire broke out at about 1:00 a.m. on December 25, 1945, while the family was sleeping. In a panic, Thomas and Eleanor rushed to get their children out of the burning house. However, standing outside in the cold winter, they quickly realized a horrifying truth. Only 5 of the 10 children were standing with them. The other 5 children, Daniel, 14, Mary, 12, Leonard, 9, Emily, 8, and Grace, 5, were nowhere to be seen. At first, they thought the children had been trapped in the fire. However, when the fire died down and the ashes were thoroughly searched, there was no trace of bones or bodies left. Fire experts later confirmed that even a fire that lasted for hours would not burn human bones completely to the point of leaving no trace. This discovery made the case even stranger. The Miller family began to suspect that the fire was not an accident, and that the 5 children may have been abducted before or during the fire. More unusual details began to emerge. A stranger had visited the house a few days earlier. Threats were made against Thomas Miller, and a strange phone call was made on the night of the fire. Question was, if the children did not die in the fire, then where did they go? Who took them? And for what reason? Theories surrounding this case are increasingly intriguing. But to this day, the mystery of the fate of the 5 Miller children remains unsolved. At around 1 a.m. on December 25, 1945, Eleanor Miller suddenly woke up to a loud noise on the roof. The sound rang out suddenly in the quiet night, like something hitting the roof, followed by the rolling sound of an object falling to the ground. At first, she didn't think much of it and prepared to go back to sleep. But soon after, she smelled smoke and realized something was wrong. Eleanor quickly got out of bed and was shocked to find a fierce fire breaking out from the lower floor. Smoke began to spread rapidly throughout the hallway, signaling a large fire engulfing the house. Panicked, she immediately woke up her husband, Thomas Miller. Both rushed out of the bedroom, trying to wake all the children up so they could escape. The 5 children sleeping on the upper floor with their parents reacted immediately and quickly ran outside. But the other 5 children, Daniel, Mary, Leonard, Emily, and Grace, were sleeping in another room downstairs and did not respond to their parents' screams. In desperation, Thomas tried to rush down the stairs to find and save his children, but a wall of fire blocked the way. The fire spread so quickly that within minutes, the stairs were engulfed in flames, making access to the lower floors impossible. With no other choice, Thomas rushed outside, hoping to enter the house through a window or by ladder. But when he reached the ladder, he was shocked to find that it had mysteriously disappeared. He searched around desperately, but could not find any trace of it, while Thomas and Eleanor tried to save the children still trapped inside. The fire continued to consume the wooden house. They shouted, calling their children's names, but no one answered. The fire was so fierce that any rescue attempt was hopeless. And when the roof collapsed in flames, they both believed they had lost their 5 children forever. But when the fire was extinguished and the ashes were thoroughly searched the next morning, the strange truth began to emerge. There was no trace of any of the children's bodies in the rubble, despite the best efforts of Thomas Miller and his wife to save their children. The raging fire consumed the house in less than 45 minutes. When the flames died down, something strange began to emerge. There was no trace of the 5 children trapped inside. One of the first mysteries Thomas noticed was that the ladder he always kept leaning against the house was missing. This was the ladder he often used for repair work, and it was always fixed in the same place. Yet on the night of the fire, when he desperately searched for it to climb upstairs to save his children, it was gone. Days later, the ladder was found strangely abandoned in a ditch about 70 feet from the house. Desperate to face the flames that were engulfing the house, Thomas decided to use the family truck to pull the ladder or try to climb up to the window. But when he rushed to start the truck, neither truck would work. This was strange, as both cars had been running fine the day before. Thomas tried several times, but the engines would not start. He later believed that someone had deliberately sabotaged them to prevent his family from rescuing their children. The cause of the fire was initially thought to be an electrical fault, but a subsequent investigation raised several questions. The Millers had repaired the electrical system in their home not long before, and an electrician confirmed that the system was working properly. Furthermore, the lights in the house remained on until the fire had completely engulfed them. If the fire had indeed been caused by an electrical fault, the entire power supply should have been shut off at the outset. What was even more suspicious was that a witness later told police that he had seen an unknown man stealing electrical wires near the Millers' home on the night of the fire. This raised the possibility that someone had deliberately sabotaged the electrical system before setting the fire. But what made the case even more puzzling was when the ashes were thoroughly searched the next morning. In a normal fire, human remains would leave traces such as bones or other hard parts that would not be completely burned. However, in this case, there was no trace of the 5 children. The Millers asked a fire expert to examine them, and he confirmed that a fire of such temperature could not have burned all the human bones to the point where nothing remained. Suspicions continued to grow when, a few days after the fire, a woman working at a roadside restaurant about 50 miles away reported that she had seen 5 children who looked very much like the Millers the morning after the fire. According to her, the children were accompanied by a group of adults who were behaving strangely. When she tried to talk to the children, the adults became wary and quickly left the restaurant. These strange details led the Millers to believe that the fire was not an accident, but part of a premeditated plot. But if the children did not die in the fire, where did they go? Who took them? And for what purpose? These are still some of the unanswered questions. Thomas Miller, an Italian immigrant, had been an outspoken critic of Benito Mussolini and the Italian fascist regime. He was one of the few who dared to express his strong anti-fascist views even after the war ended. This earned him many enemies in the Italian-American community, especially those loyal to Mussolini. Some believe that this may have been the motive for the tragedy that befell his family. There is a theory that the fire was not an accident, but an act of revenge, and that the 5 children may have been kidnapped rather than killed in the fire. This theory was further reinforced when witnesses claimed to have seen a strange object resembling a fireball thrown onto the roof of the Miller home just before the fire broke out. A neighbor claimed to have seen a bright object falling before the fire broke out. Later, when the area around the burned house was searched, a small rubber device that smelled of burning gasoline was found, similar to the kind of gasoline grenades used in the war. This raised suspicions that someone had deliberately set the fire to cover up a larger conspiracy. The Millers never gave up hope that the 5 children were still alive somewhere. They kept looking for clues and even offered a reward to encourage anyone with information to come forward. Many tips were sent, but most of them were fruitless. However, An event in 1967 made the mystery even stranger. Eleanor Miller received a strange letter in the mail. Inside was a photo of a young man who looked very much like Leonard Miller, her missing son. On the back of the photo was a strange line. Leonard Miller, love you, Mom and Dad. Your brothers. 90,132 or 35. There was no return address, no other contact information. The Millers immediately hired a private investigator to investigate the origin of the photo. But all efforts came to a dead end. The letter was sent from an unknown location in Kentucky. But when they followed the leads, no one knew anything about the young man in the photo. The photo only added to the Millers' confusion. If Leonard was still alive, why hadn't he contacted his family directly? What did the mysterious series of numbers on the photo mean? Was it an address? A secret code? Or some kind of encrypted message? No one could answer. Despite their efforts, the Millers never had any more clues about their 5 children. The Millers' disappearance will forever remain one of the greatest mysteries in American history, with no satisfactory explanation, no clear ending, only questions that will never be answered. Despite having no solid evidence that their children were alive, Thomas and Eleanor Miller never gave up hope. They believed that their 5 children had not died in the fire, but had been taken away by someone else. With that belief, they devoted the rest of their lives to finding the truth. They erected a giant billboard on the side of the town's main road, which thousands of people passed by every day. On the billboard were pictures of the 5 missing children, along with the heartfelt plea, "Does anyone know what happened to our children? We are still looking for them. If you have any information, please contact us." The Millers also placed ads in newspapers, sent letters to the authorities, hired private investigators, and paid people willing to provide clues. They received many calls, letters, and even people claiming to have seen the children in various places from New York to Florida, even Italy. But when they followed those reports, they always ran into dead ends. As the years passed, Thomas Miller gradually became exhausted by his futile search. He died in 1969 without ever knowing the fate of his children. Eleanor, despite her advanced age, continued her lonely journey. She kept a strange photo sent in 1967 and often looked at it, wondering if it was really Leonard. Until her last days, she still held on to the belief that one day her children would return. She died in 1989, taking the mystery with her. Today, the disappearance of the Miller children remains one of the greatest mysteries in American history. Decades have passed, but there has been no evidence to prove that the 5 children died in the fire, nor has anyone come forward to confirm their identities. Was this really a tragic accident, or was there a mysterious conspiracy behind it? What did the people who saw the children that day really witness? And is the mysterious photo and the cryptic text from 1967 the final clue? The answer may lie forever in the past, buried by time. Or perhaps there is still someone out there who knows the truth. But when will it be revealed? Thank you for joining us today. If you enjoyed this story and want to dive deeper into more intriguing mysteries, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update.